Yay, we made it. And it's so glad to have you back. I want to say you're the second guest that's been back a second time. You're the second. So my first one is my daughter. My daughter came on relatively new in the beginning of my live streaming. And then I had a guest a few months later, 4 or 5 minutes before the show, had a family emergency. So I call my daughter, you got to step in.
Excuse you, like I helped you through all this. Can you just like jump on for a second?
And she graciously said yes. And I've asked her a few other times because we all have emergencies, and she's graciously and very calmly and confidently said no thank you. So
That's good. Boundaries are good. People don't.
They are.
When people get told no, they often don't respond as well because they don't understand boundaries.
Yeah, very true. And there's no excuse for me not to understand boundaries, even though they're my daughters, right? It's still important to respect, not today, not feeling it, no thank you, and not have any feelings hurt. And I didn't. I really didn't. It was like, it was more, holy shit, now I have to do this by myself.
What are we talking about?
It's like, wait a minute. And I did, and I survived. Hi, Melissa. Thank you for hopping in.
Hi, Melissa.
So I also want to, jump in and say thank you for being so gracious and forgiving for some of my, faux pas and not being sensitive to your pronouns. I totally support it. And like you and I were saying, the neural pathways for the 61-year-old woman is very deep with he and she, and I just didn't even, like I said, I appreciate you accepting my apology, and I love the conversation we were having about, hey, as long as you're trying, kind of thing, So thank you. Hey, Charlotte, but sincerely thank you, because I want to be very. I want to grow new neural pathways for how I speak and write.
And that is something that's really important. Is this idea that our brains are so used to the things that we do, even if it's not about gender identity. You can say it about the way that we view life. So if your neural pathways are always in the I'm going to be eaten by a bear pathway, or the negative pathway, you are going to take one bad thing throughout the day and make it ruin your whole day.
Yeah. Hey, Noroyle, Charlotte says she's having a hard time hearing you. So
so I looked at my mic and I kind of smoothed it.
Okay.
I shifted it around. I don't know if that's better or not, but I have like an actual mic, and
let's see if that's better. Charlotte, let us know. Or Melissa, if you're still on, let us know if you're struggling with hearing.
Okay, maybe that's better.
I hear you fine. I hear you fine. Gretchen, do a sound check for us, would you? Are you hearing both of us? Testing, Nairobi.
It's like testing 1, 2, 3.
Yep, we're testing 1, 2, 3. This is live, so we're doing a sound check. And Gretchen says she can hear, so we're gonna go on. So for everybody that's on right now, your second time here. You impacted so many humans' lives that were listening, and I don't know how many afterwards who listened to the recording. I personally got DMs saying that was a great show. So what do you want to share now? And hey, Carolyn, thank you for coming. What do you want to share now? Or if you want to kick me in the ass for my pronouns, whatever you want to do, go.
I guess just there was a conversation or a post that I saw earlier today about the DEI space. And when you spoke about pronouns, it reminded me that, and this is something that I saw, was that there are dangerous spaces for people who are in underrepresented groups, right?
Right.
And they aren't safe in those spaces. So when they go into a DEI space with these people who are DEI practitioners, the expectation is, okay, this is a safe place. Like I can be who I am with these people because they practice what I practice and they are in the same field as me. And it's kind of been like a hush hush thing, and I haven't seen attention drawn to it until today. But DEI spaces can be just as toxic, like just as like poisonous as other spaces,
Mm-hmm.
because you have someone in DEI and all they can focus on is one aspect without wanting to impact all aspects, then instead of being DEI, it's solely focused on that one area. And you quickly ostracize the people that aren't in that group. So, considering the fact that I'm still looking for employment within DEI and I have interviews lined up and everything, but it's it's important that we recognize those things. Like I feel safer here, even though you had to mess up with my pronouns, I feel safer here than I have had in DEI committees where they didn't necessarily think that me being trans, neurodivergent, or disabled or queer was valuable at the table, if that makes sense. So
Well, it makes sense. It saddens me. I feel gr- gratitude for you saying you feel safe here, because that is my goal, is to have all my guests feel safe. So thank you for saying that, and I'm glad you feel that way. I'm gonna I'm gonna share a story similar to what you said. So I saw a post about 2 weeks ago, and it was like, in 5 minutes we're going live. We're going to be talking about DE and I coach somebody that works for Qualcomm who is in charge of DE and I at Qualcomm. And I thought this is going to be a great live. And I saw her make a
mhm,
comment. She wasn't the guest. She wasn't the interviewee. She just commented, "Hey, this is going to be a great live. Let's jump on." And I'm like, "Oh, hey, can't say her name because she's a client. Okay, great. I'm going to log on."
mhm.
And some of the guests on today, and I'm so glad you're all here, might kick me in the shin or even in the ass, and I'm okay with it. I can handle it. I log on, and it is a white male running the meeting. And I lasted for 5 minutes. I kid you not. I actually lasted for 5 minutes, but he was clueless. And I'm like, you've got a white male running this live on DE and I.
I think I know what you're talking about. I
Were
saw
you on
that.
that? Were you listening to that one too?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm like, no. Not that he can't be sympathetic and understand. Believe me, I don't want to pick on all white males, but he didn't.
Hmm.
Am I
No,
wrong, or if we were on the same one, did you feel the same way?
no, it's hard to understand even myself. Like being white, I have privilege, period. Like end of story. And what I go through as a trans, neurodivergent, disabled queer person is still less than someone who is black, brown, or indigenous and goes through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I still can I can empathize. I can't really understand the bigger portion of that pain, but the I don't want to say the dominant culture because that's gotten me in trouble before, but the group that creates all these laws in society are old white men or,
Yeah.
rich white men. And when we see a white man who is not trans or whoever they might not be doing the DEI stuff, it's like, oh, another one. Instead of why isn't a black woman out
Right.
there?
Yeah.
Or why isn't a black trans woman who like black trans women are the top on the murder list for trans community and for LGBTQIA. Like that's it's just true, right? So why are we promote all these companies are saying that we're doing DEI, but they're promoting the wrong people. And I understand that in order to dismantle the system, we need the people who built it to dismantle it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, they can't they can't be leading. Like they have to be listening and not listening to
Correct.
respond, right? Because a lot of people listen to respond. It's listening to understand and to support. because when you change the way that you think about listening, like it's almost like a job. It's not where you get to put your opinion in, it's how can you help the person. Then it starts actually changing the way you think about it. And I will fully admit on this live that I used to be the white person that I hate now. Not hate, but I can't stand now. Because I, born in
Yay
Texas.
for growth.
Yeah, born in Texas, raised like went to Minnesota, went to Kentucky, raised in like a really secluded area. Like my mom and my dad were both. They weren't one of those like the redneck outward racist type of people, but they had their biases and they had their racist comments. And it wasn't until I was 18 that I realized what they were doing because I wasn't surrounded by diverse people. And when I went to college and decided to do the American Roots Tutor program, I was in a classroom full of kids that weren't white. And all I
Right.
could think was, my parents literally say these things about you guys. What? And that's what started. That's what started like my whole transformation. And then I read "The Skin That We Speak" by Lisa Del, I think, and I couldn't turn back. I couldn't I couldn't step away from DEI after that.
Yeah.
And it's I can't let other people hurt. Like they're gonna hurt anyway. I understand that. But to sit back and say, oh, it's so awful that these people are going through this, but because I'm white, I'm gonna stick my head in the sand and ignore it.
Yeah, and these people, right? It's like these people. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I get it. So I appreciate what Al just said. Such an important topic right now. I'm sad when I hear people talk about needing a safe space. Any space should feel safe. Yes. One day, perhaps. We're not going to stop trying. I'm learning just listening, and that's what you just said. And I don't want to. I'm not going to obviously say names, and I don't want to offend anybody. And that particular white male in running the DE&I needed to have been sitting in the audience listening and
I hope
learning.
it was a reality for him. I hope it was a learning experience for him. Like,
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about because it could go one of two ways. The people, and this is something that I noticed in the DEI, especially with practitioners, I'm becoming more and more tired when it comes to the DEI practitioners I'm seeing on LinkedIn, simply because they aren't. When you're in DEI, you want to take a coaching perspective. You want to be able to talk to people, meet with them where they are, and then slowly build them up because they might not be on the same chapter in their journey that you are in. But you have to remember you weren't always in that chapter you're in right now. And you're
Right.
not in that same chapter in a month from now. So if we attack, especially in comments and stuff like that, if we attack, that person's going to withdraw and then become defensive and not want to grow, right?
Correct.
They're going to pull in on themselves and they're going to say, well, I was trying and this and that. But we have to reach out and we have to be able to coach them through as long as they're willing to do the listening to understand, right?
Yeah.
And what did Gretchen just say?
Yeah, I'm gonna say what great. As I was reading that, so, but if DEI was something he actually understood, or at least understood the importance of and distinctions about, he would have put himself in the audience, not in the mic. Yes, Gretchen.
I didn't join because I saw that it was a white male, which oops. But I didn't join. Did he have any speakers with him, or was it just him? Like, do you know?
There was I think there was a guest speaker, and I don't remember for sure. However, I was looking at, the folks like myself, if you were there, I was looking at people in the comments, and there was quite a diverse group of people in the comments, and it just never took off. Like I said, and I left after about 5 minutes because there was an African American woman made a comment and he kind of blew over it. I'm like, he's clueless. Why am my time is way too precious. So I did listen for a few minutes and I just went, this is just not good. This isn't change. This isn't meeting where people are at and hoping to give them a space to grow and learn. It was just like, yeah, peace out, people. So did I stay for the whole thing? No.
Yeah, and that's something that I'd like to touch on is that then my brain suddenly went off to the other side, an ADHD moment, and now
It's okay.
I also have a co-star who's my emotional support animal.
Yeah.
But oh, now I remember what it was. So I see all these posts about how DEI isn't just about Black people, which I'm. So anyway,
Yeah.
if we look, let's say, I'm not Black, obviously, I'm white, but if I look at oppression and prejudice and the horrible stuff happening to the trans community and the LGBTQI community, you can't sniff the microphone. Hi, Nancy. Uh, it all stems from systemic racism or racism. And a lot of people don't know that. They don't know where the actual hate for the community came from. And whenever I do my trainings on gender identity and how to approach gender identity in the workplace, I talk about where it came from because a lot of people take it for granted they that they don't understand that racism really is the key. Like, I don't know if we have time for me to go into like how it was it and rooted in racism, but maybe that's like a hook to do one of my gender identity things. But it is rooted in it, and I have yet to see, because I'm a very visual learner. I have ADHD, I have autism. I need to be able to see just as much as I need to be able to read. I can't follow videos because there's too much information coming at me. So I usually read the captions and turn the sound off. I didn't even realize like until I was 27 that I had ADHD and autism. Like it's insane. But
Yeah.
and there goes my brain again.
It's okay. So I'm going to jump in for a second because again, I want to learn. And it's not just because I'm a coach. I am a coach, and I do want to meet people where they're at. And I'm not a unicorn. I want every place to be a safe place, and I know that it's not. And now my brain went off to someplace than the point I wanted to make. So it'll come back. It will come back. I promise. It did. It went off. Oh my gosh. Hey, Marianne.
You were saying you wanted to learn something.
And then my point left.
Okay, so I guess what I could do is, let's see. Do we have time for me to do like a very vague overview of how?
Absolutely, and people can come and go as they have time for. So yes, please share. And obviously this is recorded, right? So anybody will come back later and listen to it that wants to. So please share. This is your arena.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to use some maybe content warning, trigger warning words like RAPE. So if you have any sort of like sensitivities to that, just make sure that I want you to know that that's going to be used. So when the Europeans decided to come over and rape, pillage, murder, and massacre indigenous people, when they came over, they obviously thought, well, you're less than us, right? Like, we're already higher than you, we're white. But then they met two-spirit people. Yeah. And two-spirit individuals are neither male nor female, but they're very, like it says, it's spiritual. They have a connection with their gods and things like that. So when they were confronted with something that wasn't what they were used to, they automatically, because indigenous people were seen as less, they made two-spirit people less. And within those tribes, it didn't, like, sexuality wasn't really a thing. Gay, straight, they were communities. So to see things that were not right in their perspective, they tied it to, oh, well, you're a different race, so you do these things, so that is less than.
Right.
And they made it a point to eradicate as many two-spirit people as they could find. As many as gender nonconforming indigenous people as they could find. And that's where it started, was when they saw it in the indigenous communities. And it's really interesting how it's rooted in, that's like the basic overview of it. But when you talk about it that way, people realize, okay, so the LGBTQI community literally is repressed or pushed down because it originally started with race.
Yeah. And I do want to, address so thank you. And I do want to address what Jay says. Assuming
Mm-hmm.
white men can't be diverse doesn't sit well with me. Yes, neither of us want to say or mean that we mean all white men. We don't. I don't. I won't speak for you, Noroyle, and I don't. Right. So if I said that or I said something that offended you, Jay, I apologize. I'm not saying all white men.
I will say it. And not to like start an argument here, but if you are white, straight, cis, middle class Christian, you have all the power in this society. You absolutely have all the power. And it doesn't mean that you don't go through struggles. It doesn't mean that you haven't gone hungry or that you haven't hurt or that someone hasn't hurt you or you haven't felt broken down. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is the ability to combat that with power is privilege because people don't have that power. So being trans, if I was, give you an example, I was cornered, I was bullied out of my workplace in Kentucky and I had to move out of the state because it became dangerous for me because I'm trans. I am still white though. So when I was at work, I got cornered in my classroom by a male teacher. He was standing over me and he was yelling at me, and I have select mutism. Whenever I want to hide, I go silent. So he left. My supervisor, let's say that I was a male, right? White male, cis, whatever. I texted my supervisor that I was still worried about being around this teacher. I was still scared to walk down the hallway where he was at, that I was worried about it. And his response was, "Did you hug it out yet?"
Mm.
He would not say that to a male presenting person. You can't tell me that he would. He would actually come and he would do something about it. And I wasn't presenting as female either. I was trans then too, but they were the whole like, you can't change people's hearts. If they don't accept you for trans, you just have to deal with it, and they're misgendering and stuff, which is why I like. But it's not, we're not saying that people don't go through hurt. It's the people who make the laws and the people who have the power are white, cis, straight, Christian, middle class men. And those are that's what we're trying to disrupt. Not in a you're a terrible person way, but in a we need to be more diverse and give other people power as well. But that means that people in those positions have to let go of that power. And that's scary. It's scary to let go of power. People feel targeted when they're asked to let go of that power. And it's one of those things where you just kind of have to breathe and listen to understand. And if you don't understand, ask the person talking, what can I read? What can I do to understand what's being said in this conversation? Because it's better to be open and learn and still have your opinions than it is to say, well, I'm going to be stagnant and I refuse to understand where you're coming from because my views are rooted in old ways, which is what we're trying to disrupt, are the old ways.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And I don't even try to pretend what it feels like to be in your situation. I hear stories, you share your story. I coach a person who, when he's with his partner, they can't show affection. They live in the South. They can't be affectionate. If they are, they're fearful of their lives.
You'll get jumped.
And
Yeah.
I hear it and I feel so sad, and then I get angry, and I'm like, well, why are you living in the South?
Some people don't have the money to move. I was lucky. I was lucky to be able to get out when I did.
Right, and he's taking care of his mother or whatever, the reasons that they are where they're at, they can't be themselves. And again, that's where I get sad, I get angry, and I can't even imagine, because other than a few times in my life where I've been, in a dark alley by myself and I feared for my life, that's rare. Then, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, and that's rare. That's just not even comparable. I mean, it's not. It's not a daily thing for me.
Right. And when I moved to Chicago and when I visited Washington, I met a lot of people who said it's not a problem. Racism
Hmm.
doesn't exist. Trans people are fine. LGBTQI people are fine. They can, they can live, they can do their thing. I don't care. Nothing wrong is going to happen to them. I literally moved out of the state that I was at for 20 years because I was terrified and
Hmm.
because I knew I couldn't stay there. If I was going to stay there, the one career I had was over. I got bullied into resigning. The investigation I had against them came up with actual discrimination, but the discrimination office didn't want to take it on. So now I have a lawyer.
Yeah.
It's But that's been going on. The lawsuit's been going on for 3 or 4 years because lawsuits suck. But at the end of the day, I couldn't stay. But I had the privilege of being able to sell my house and get out of there. My heart breaks whenever I think about my trans kids that I had or my
Yeah.
non-binary kids who are struggling, or who I had a kid who the same teacher that cornered me slammed their foot in the door and told them he
Yeah.
wasn't going to call them by their name or their pronouns because it wasn't that an Infinite campus. Slammed their foot in it, and they came to me injured. School didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And that's because the kid is trans.
Yeah.
So you have these people who don't think it exists because it's not in front of them. So when I come in and I'm like, oh no, these things are happening, they don't want to believe it. And I can't imagine what it's like for a Black trans child or a Black adult who's trans to come in and be like, oh yeah, if I go out in my actual, what I feel is my true gender identity, I'm going to get murdered. Like if we have teenagers being murdered by other teenagers because of the
Yeah.
rhetoric going on, where are we going to go? And it boggles my mind that we can place restrictions on who people are. Where, of course, I'm going to not even go into Europeans, but when they came over and did what they did it for religious freedom. They did it for all these freedoms. And yet that same lineage
Yeah.
is opposing freedoms. And it's just weird how you can believe for freedoms for a certain group, but
But not.
then it's like, you can have this, you can't. You're not allowed. You
Right.
can go there. And that's what it feels like, especially in the South. Like the South is a scary, scary place. Like there are still places where you don't drive through if you're not white. In Kentucky, especially, like you just don't drive through.
Yeah.
Um, a friend of mine, her boyfriend got arrested, and he's white, she's Black and Caribbean. She is spicy, but the cop called her the name that he shouldn't have called her and left her in the car, a manual car that she couldn't drive. Now, a cop wouldn't have done that to a white female, but down in the South, in Kentucky, in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's but we don't realize it until we're faced with it, and that's really hard. And I think that's what drives me, but it also costs me a lot. I actually lost
Yeah.
a friendship today because
Uh,
and it's been like a friendship since I was in college, but because I'm trans and because I'm queer and because I involve myself in the DEI realm, he, as a white straight cis man, says he's too tired of being angry and he can't be around it, and he cut off our friendship. That
Hmm.
And he also said that I I have a lot of needs as a friend because I'm disabled. Like I have to, if they want me to ask for help, I'll ask for help. But when I do, it just kind of backlashes. But because of what's happening in the country, he can't handle being near me because it reminds him of what's happening in the country. He's sticking his head in the sand. Like I said
Hmm.
earlier, like you're privileged in that you can stick your head in the sand and ignore it. But I can't because I live it every day.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I get really passionate about this kind of stuff, but at the
Yes, I
same
can tell.
time, yeah, at the same time, it's a whole coaching perspective. You need to be able to talk to people about it and not attack them like I'm seeing so many DEI practitioners do on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. No, yes, we do need to talk about it. And and accept all points, accept points of view so that hopefully we move forward, like Al was saying, I need to listen, I'm learning, I'm growing, right? I am growing. For anybody who hopped on after the first 5 minutes, I apologize because I was writing about Noroyle and I being on today, and I used she pronouns, like she's gonna be great, and she's coming on live to me for this with me on the second, our second time, and Nairole's messaging me, could you change the pronouns, please? And I'm like, yes, I have no problem. It's like we were talking about the neural pathways in 61 years on Earth. This is the first time in the last couple of years or so that I am aware of pronouns, and I support them. It's a new neural pathway, which is taking a while to get used to. So yes, I want to, I appreciate, like I said in the beginning, I appreciate your grace, appreciate how kind you were with asking me to be aware of. And yes, it's again, creating a safe space for everyone's point of view, and being able to listen and move forward and learn. And I certainly have lots of learning to do, and willing to do it so that we are all safe. Again, I don't want to sound like a unicorn, but I want us to be safe. Peace on earth. It's just like peace,
Right.
Right. Well, we are at our half an hour. Does anybody have any questions? I'm okay with going over a few minutes. Anybody have any questions for either of us? Please, I'll keep an eye on it for the next few minutes. So what's next for you? I know you said you had a couple job interviews. What's next?
Yes. So tomorrow I actually have a job interview for what's called an academic interventionist. It's not a DEI. It's not a DEI position, but my master's is in literacy K through 12 and coaching, like large building coaching for education. So it would be me working with educators, administration, and teachers to help students who are struggling readers. I hate that phrase. I'm like, no, you mean like they didn't have the opportunities the other kids had. But that's tomorrow. But I do have a DEI interview next Thursday. They're both like the 15-minute conversation, seeing if we vibe with each other, because just like they're interviewing me, I'm interviewing them.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that where I'm going is a space where I can be who I am, because I can't wake up in the morning and be terrified of going into work again. I just can't do it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I totally support that. I'm going to go off topic for just a second, because how I had that thought and then it came in and left one ear and went right out the other. When you were talking about watching videos, and I believe you said ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So again, this is where I'm learning, and I want to. That's why I want to go live for other people to learn too. I just never even thought about captioning in a video, and I'm going to be totally transparent about. Sometimes I'm not so proud of some of my comments, right? And so I have a LinkedIn a video coach who I follow, and she private messaged me and said, Tanya, I really like your videos. I'm going to encourage you to caption them. I'm like, I don't have the time to learn how to do that. I know. Right. And then she explained to me what you said. There are people who, you will reach more people because they will appreciate that you took the time to caption it, because they do have to turn the sound off, either ADHD, or maybe it's just somebody at work who's can't turn their sound on. Either way, however, that's what I support a little bit less than, there are people who can't listen to the videos and it's too stimulating, and so they turn the sound off and caption. I caption every single video now. So I know this isn't on the same realm of what you're talking about. Where the realm is that I, initially I'm like, no friggin' way am I going to learn how to caption. I don't have the time. I don't see the necessity. No. And then when it was explained to me, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. And now I caption all my videos. So it's just us being open to hearing other perspectives and not turning it off. I just turned it off. My initial reaction was no.
Yeah. And it's just like, this is going to sound really weird. When I try to find a location and I'm driving, I have to turn the music off to be able to see it. which makes no sense to a neurotypical person. Why do you have to turn your radio off so you know where you're going?
Yep.
Because as an ADHD and autistic person, I can't listen to the music because music is one way that I kind of connect to my emotions, and that's an autism thing. At the same time, using my brain to look, like I just can't do it.
Right.
So unless I have that path, that driven path ingrained in my skull, I have to turn the music off, or I can't see it because I can't hear it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's weird.
So again, I'm a human in progress. Kimberly, I don't want to ignore your comment. The What's Your Story show is 30 minutes and we are now at 40 minutes. So we're going to have to do part 3, but I am not ignoring your comment. And I'll show the comment. I don't support the new pronouns. I don't understand non-binary. If you want to take this real quick, because I know we're at 40 minutes instead of 30 minutes, up to you, Noroyle, or we can do part 3.
So I could always do part 3. I also, I just got over COVID in February, and I'm also trying to find a job. So I was planning on doing some gender identity trainings on LinkedIn. So if you guys can follow me, if you can go find me, I will be posting those soon, and I'll be doing those trainings. But in general, non-binary isn't new. That's the one thing I want everyone to understand. Like the gender nonconformity is not new. It dates back to before we were able to read and write. So two-spirit people, right? It just means that our culture, right, our first world culture is finally catching on to things that have been happening already, and it's new to us, but it's not new to the world. So when we think of people who are gender nonconforming, that happens everywhere. It's just we were trained to only think one way, and we have to unlearn that training because it existed, and it has existed since the beginning of whenever. But I go deeper into that in the training.
Yeah. We'll do part 3 for Kim, for anybody and Kimberly, right? Yes. All right. So we are over. So thank you. I know this is a heated topic. It's a huge topic. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing, and I'm honored that you will come on What's Your Story and be so honest and open with everything. I want to wish you the best in your job search, in your interviews. Keep us posted. And yes, if tell everybody where to find you. Your last name isn't on and I can't write in the comments. So let everybody know who might want to go and follow you on LinkedIn. I think that's the only platform you're on is LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can type in my first name, Noroyle. My last name is Lamb, like a baby sheep. So Lamb as in boy. So if you find me, follow me, connect with me, message me. And thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you, everybody. Melissa, Kim, Jay, Nancy, AB. I know I feel like, was that Captain Kangaroo or whatever at the end, saying thank you to everybody, but really do appreciate the support, appreciate your opinions, different, the same, whatever they are, do appreciate, the opinions and creating a safe space for everybody to articulate. So appreciate it. We will do part 3 soon. I am taking a break in June. So I have been doing live streaming nonstop since I want to say October. So it hasn't been a year, but I'm feeling a little bit on where I'm thinking I'm starting to hit the wall a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so my live stream coach, I'm going to give him a shout out, is Chris Hennessy. And Chris Hennessy, I was talking to him the other day and saying, I love doing this, but I'm feeling a little burnt. And he says, Tanya, you need a break. Like every 6 months, you need to take a break. So I am going to take a break in June and come back with a little bit new and improved. I want to go a little bit deeper. I don't know exactly what that looks like. So we're here through May. June is a month off. Back in July, we'll do part 3. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a outro. Here we go.